I call the honourable member David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to acknowledge both of our colleagues who've contributed here. And Chairman, you are ruling with an iron rod in this debate, and we hope that there'll be sufficient. Well, there you go. That too. I need not come back on Tuesday, perhaps. But it's a recess week, so hopefully you'll forget if you don't write too much in the Hansard, Mr. Mallard. Look, it's interesting how the most arcane details of legislation often provide the greatest insight. And colleagues have rightly pointed out that the refunds here, the entitlements, apply to agricultural and commercial vehicles. Now, it's a bit like they used to say, cut out the middleman, vote for Treasury. Under this national government, it's cut out the middleman, vote for the other English guy. Vote for federated farmers, because, you know, this is really a federated farmers set of exemptions. The other exemption that's particularly important is the exemption for commercial vessels. And, of course, we've got a problem at the moment. I want to commend the government on seeking to extend New Zealand flagging to foreign charter vessels in the New Zealand EEZ. At the moment, those vessels are not subject to fuel excise at all. They are not even subject to GST. Their crews are not subject to PAYE, and as many New Zealanders will know by the horrendous reports of abuse in that industry, and parts of it, by no means all of it, they're not subject to New Zealand labour law either. So I commend the government for trying to fix that up, and hopefully that will bring all of those vessels and therefore their fuel within the tax net. Now, Mr. Mallard raised an important technical point, which was around the quantum of the exemptions and the refunds. And doing a quick scan for other precedents, so we've also picked up another similar example where it may well be that the government needs to take remedial action, and that's in respect of KiwiSaver for non-residents. Where under the Income Tax Act that can be clawed back if someone is not paid or if they have received a tax credit while overseas if they failed to notify. But what is not clawed back, sir, is the interest or use of money or any capital appreciation based on those tax credits. And, sir, it's a very similar situation to this one. And I think the lesson here, sir, is here's a government which is passing legislation for the sole and utter purpose of trying to make its budget appear balanced. Because without the $700 million that this will deliver by 2015, they would not be within a bull's roar of a so-called balanced budget. They're not anyway, because earlier in this debate we've illustrated some $3 billion worth of shystership, of shonkiness, well, there are lots of other technical terms that spring to mind, but let's just say the numbers don't add up. They don't come close to adding up. But the government needs this bill, even though it's got the power to do the same job by regulation without detaining Parliament, whatever it is, $10,000 an hour. We are here on a Saturday in New Zealand time trying to pass legislation which is unnecessary. And in part 2 of the bill, we are further complicating life by creating a possible interaction between regulations that doesn't need to be there. And we'd ask the Minister to take a call and explain, if he can, which is by no means certain, whether the clawback and refund provisions apply appropriately, if he can address himself to the commercial vessels issue, and if he's able, if he can also tell us whether the precedent around the KiwiSaver tax credits is an appropriate analogy, and whether the government intends to take remedial action on that matter as well. That would be extremely useful. And it may be, sir, in doing so, he could come up with some other reason why we are here on a Saturday afternoon passing legislation which is legally unnecessary. There may be something, although I can't think of anything, which the opposition's overlooked. I mean, there may be a legitimate reason why the government is doing it. It's just none of us can see it because, as my colleague Mr. Mallard's pointed out, there is a regulation-making power which could have achieved exactly the same outcome on 1 January. Well, the Minister is, I think, shaking his head. He may be breathing, but I think he's shaking his head, and if he is, I'd invite him to tell the House and the country why that is not the case, because that's what the country believes, Minister. The country believes that you are passing this for what Mr. Joyce would call optic reasons, to make a balanced budget appear when otherwise it would not.
I call the honourable member Brendan Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.